It is not a matter of what you own or what you have developed. But what matters is how you use your discovery in the right place and for the right reasons. This was the main difference between Xerox PARC and Apple. Despite being an immense success in the beginning with revolutionary technology, Xerox could not stand as a market leader for long. But Apple, on the other hand, stood the test of time and is one of the most magnificent companies out there. In fact, Steve Jobs' famous visit to Xerox PARC gained tremendous attention, and the story behind it will leave you in awe. So what is the story behind Steve Jobs' famous visit to Xerox? Did Steve Jobs really steal ideas from Xerox, or is it just a myth? Let's talk about it and explore the remarkable visit that not many people know of. If we talk about the history, Xerox was once a household name. From the very beginning, Xerox had earned the reputation of developing unique technologies that inspired many other companies to do even great. Although at the start, Xerox had to face little to no competition because of their innovations, but in the 1970s, Xerox was introduced with some new competition from IBM and Kodak. On the July 1st, 1970, the Xerox Palo Alto Research Center opened its doors. It was commonly known as Xerox PARC, and the purpose was to invent the technologies of the future. At Xerox PARC, great scientists, engineers, and programmers were assembled, and they set about the task of inventing the future of computing. They invented technologies that are so widely successful we take them for granted today. The Ethernet, a prototype of the modern PC, the graphical user interface GUI, a commercial version of the mouse, page description languages, and laser printers were all invented at PARC. On the other hand, despite having been in business for just 2 years and having fewer than 40 employees in 1978, Apple Computer was rapidly becoming one of the most sought-after investments in the shadowy world of venture capital. The real story begins in 1979 when Steve Jobs decided to visit Xerox PARC. But initially, Steve Jobs was not willing to go there and just wanted to do his thing. However, he was convinced by one man named Jeff Raskin, who was an Apple engineer and Steve Jobs' advisor. Raskin had friends at PARC who had already dazzled him with their technology, and Raskin was itching to have Jobs sit for a demo. After seeing remarkable things at Xerox PARC, Raskin told Steve Jobs that Xerox was doing something very interesting, and he eventually forced Jobs to visit Xerox. So finally, Jobs decided to visit Xerox PARC. At that time, Apple was already one of the hottest tech firms in the country. Everyone in the valley wanted a piece of it. So Jobs proposed a deal. He would allow Xerox to buy 100,000 shares of his company for $1 million. A lot of discussion happened based on what he was allowed to see and what was to be kept in secret from him. Many at Xerox thought this was a completely stupid deal. In the end, Xerox went ahead with it. Jobs was given a couple of tours, at the end of which he ended up standing in front of the Xerox Alto PARC's personal computer. An engineer named Larry Tesler conducted the demonstration. He moved the cursor across the screen with the aid of a mouse. He just clicked on one of the icons on the screen. He opened and closed windows, deftly moving from one task to another. He wrote on an elegant word processing program and exchanged emails with other people at PARC on the world's first Ethernet network. Jobs had come with one of his software engineers, Bill Atkinson, and Atkinson moved in as close as he could, his nose almost touching the screen. Jobs got a little bit excited watching this presentation. He could not believe that Xerox wasn't doing much with this technology. Jobs was pacing around the room, acting up the whole time, Tesla recalled. He was very excited. Then, when he began seeing the things I could do on screen, he watched for about a minute and started jumping around the room, shouting, "Why aren't you doing anything with this? This is the greatest thing. This is revolutionary." The Xerox Alto went on a sale in 1981. It was slow and underpowered. Soon after, Xerox withdrew from personal computer market altogether. Steve Jobs, meanwhile, went back to Apple and demanded that his team, which was working on the next generation of personal computer, change their thinking. He wanted menus, he wanted windows, and he wanted a mouse. If Xerox had known what it had and had taken advantage of his real opportunities, Jobs said years later, it could have been as big as IBM plus Microsoft plus Xerox combined and the largest high-technology company in the world. When Jobs came back to Apple from his visit to PARC, he met with Dean Hovey, an engineer, and Jobs gave Hovey these instructions to make a mouse. This is what innovation sounds like. So he explains it and he says, "You know, the Xerox mouse is a mouse that costs $300 to build. and it breaks within 2 weeks. Here is your design spec. Our mouse needs to be manufacturable for less than 15 bucks. It needs to not fail for a couple of years. And I want to be able to use it on Fornica and my blue jeans. Right after the meeting, Hovey went to Walgreens and bought all the underarm deodorants that he could find because they had a ball in them. He also bought a butter dish. This was the beginning of the Apple mouse. Jobs didn't steal the mouse or the GUI from Xerox. In the legend of Xerox PARC, people say that Jobs ultimately stole the personal computer from Xerox. Yet, if we look closer at the instructions Jobs gave Hovey, he did not want to reproduce what he saw at the PARC that day. Did Jobs steal the idea of mouse from Xerox? Not exactly. Xerox never owned the idea of the mouse. The researchers at PARC had actually gotten the idea for the mouse from Douglas Engelbart, a Stanford Research Institute researcher. Did Jobs steal the idea of Xerox's graphic user interface? Not exactly. There is clear difference between the two products. The rest is history. Apple went on to pioneer and find huge success in the personal computer market with the Lisa and Macintosh, while Xerox continued to focus on putting out large machines geared towards large corporate offices, prohibitively expensive for the small business owner. Xerox wasn't able enough to transition into a brand new market it had no experience with. Apple, however, had both the flexibility and initiative to take the ideas Jobs saw at PARC and build them into a machine primed for mass market success. Now, innovation is definitely important, especially for a company, but Xerox skipped innovation and just went straight to being a completely different company. The worst came when Xerox was sued for fraud in 2014 by Texas, its mismanagement of their Medicaid program. Then in 2016, Xerox was under fire again for the mishandling of the Medicaid for New York. It means discoveries and creation alone are never enough until innovation exists. And proper analysis of competitors, market demands, and proper management is very crucial. With that, we come to the end of today's video. What do you think about Xerox and its turbulent journey? Tell us in the comments.